Sergio Perez's yet another disastrous performance at his own Mexican Grand Prix reignited the talk that he could and probably will be replaced by the team as soon as next season. With Daniel Ricciardo managing to drive arguably AlphaTauri's best race this season, Horner and Marko Helmut have a lot to think about, especially after Horner publicly praised the Aussie driver even more than Verstappen. This is inevitably bad news for Checo, who now has to climb a mountain in order to keep his seat in the team. Daniel Ricciardo appears to be back at his peak performance in Formula 1, hinting at a potential return to Red Bull racing. His performance at the Mexican Grand Prix was particularly noteworthy, as he not only qualified alongside Max Verstappen but also outpaced Sergio Perez, and this achievement speaks volumes, especially considering he was driving an AlphaTauri. Ricciardo followed this up with a strong 7th place finish in the Grand Prix, holding his own against faster cars and demonstrating impeccable racecraft, time management and pace. And meanwhile, Perez faced a complete meltdown, crashing out in the first corner. But this isn't merely about one isolated result, it's about what enabled such a performance, as it provides compelling reasons to believe that this level of performance is sustainable, and it breathes new life into Ricciardo's post-McLaren resurgence, as he now appears to be the type of teammate Red Bull may need for Verstappen in the future. After rescuing Ricciardo from the disappointment of his premature departure from McLaren by appointing him as a reserve driver for 2023, Red Bull took a gamble by placing him in the AlphaTauri race seat mid-season following Nick de Vries' sacking. And one pressing question has been what Red Bull truly saw in Ricciardo as a racing driver beyond his marketing value. Given his challenging 2 years at McLaren, both Ricciardo and those around him have been steadfast in their belief that he has sorted out the technical issues in his driving and is capable of returning to his best form, and it took months to build a case supporting this claim, primarily due to Ricciardo's unfortunate hand injury shortly after the F1 summer break. And although AlphaTauri has a strong track record in Mexico and Ricciardo has excelled there in the past, this recent performance doesn't seem like a fortunate alignment of circumstances. His 4th place qualifying position wasn't a fluke, but more so a testament to Ricciardo's focused and refined driving, reminiscent of his earlier days with McLaren. So, what has changed in such a short period of time? Throughout the Mexico weekend, Ricciardo displayed an exceptional level of motivation and enthusiasm, and he mentioned entering the weekend with a chip on his shoulder, driven by a desire to tap into something that initially intrigued him back in Zandvoort before his injury, but unfortunately his first race back in Austin the week prior didn't afford him the opportunity to do so. Ricciardo's driving style differs significantly from both the regular driver Yuki Tsunoda and Pierre Gasly, who served as AlphaTauri's main driver for several seasons. While Tsunoda and Gasly favor a later braking approach with a sharp delayed rotation, often referred to as the V-style, Ricciardo wanted to depart from this technique, which he felt constrained by during his time at McLaren. Recognizing this early on, Ricciardo sought a more robust front end for his AlphaTauri, believing it could handle a touch more rear instability, and this might seem counterintuitive given that rear instability was a significant challenge for him at McLaren. But we'll address this shortly. Pursuing a different setup direction was not a quick process, and AlphaTauri began experimenting after the summer break. However, Ricciardo only had the chance for a limited number of practice sessions at Zandvoort before fracturing his hand. His initial return in Austin faced setbacks due to car damage, compounded by the format of the sprint weekend, which required locking in the setup early on Friday, which left little room for adjustment, particularly given it was his first race back from injury. Furthermore, updates made to the car's behavior in his absence added another layer of complexity. This recent performance is a crucial and timely boost for Ricciardo, because while Red Bull may state their intentions regarding Perez's future, it would be unwise to assume they wouldn't consider a change for 2024 if they genuinely believe Ricciardo is a significantly stronger choice. And even if a promotion to Red Bull Racing for the next season seems unlikely, Ricciardo is setting his sights on securing a drive for 2025, making these few races in AlphaTauri a significant test for the Australian. The initial 2 races Ricciardo competed in before his injury were solid, but didn't provide a definitive assessment, and the race in Austin offered a similar performance. However, having shaken off the rust in the US and then enjoying a standard weekend in Mexico to fine-tune the setup, Ricciardo now resembles the revitalized driver that Red Bull insisted they saw in simulator sessions and during a Red Bull test earlier this year. His confidence and speed are evident, marking a stark departure from his earlier struggles. In Mexico, he exuded the air of someone who believed he had truly returned to a level of performance he hadn't achieved since sporadic flashes in 2021. And while Ricciardo will need more than just one strong weekend and a standout qualifying result to secure the Red Bull racing return he desires, this performance seems rooted in a substantial and comprehensible change that he not only comprehends but has actively advocated for, which suggests it can be sustained beyond Mexico. Red Bull boss Christian Horner lauded the Aussie's efforts on Monday morning in comments that will do Perez's peace of mind no favors. "You couldn't fail to be impressed by Daniel this weekend," Horner told Sky Sports. "I mean, his qualifying was outstanding yesterday and he showed his maturity and experience and pace in the race. I think that fighting a Mercedes in an AlphaTauri for their best result of the year, it was a great performance. And had it not been for the red flag, after Kevin Magnussen crashed out, he might have actually finished even further up. So he can take a lot of confidence coming back from injury. He's had a rough time over the last couple of months having to sit on the sidelines. But that's the Daniel that we're used to seeing. As we've seen in sport, confidence is such a thing, and his confidence is coming up. Checo, we just need him to have a confidence-boosting result, and he could have had it today, but it wasn't to be. Such a sustained performance would dispel any notions of Ricciardo being a broken driver, but rather it would indicate that his struggles at McLaren were a uniquely nightmarish combination. When you factor in his commercial value, extensive experience, and his positive rapport with the team, Ricciardo becomes an even more appealing prospect. And in such a scenario, Red Bull's likelihood of choosing him over Perez would increase significantly. Ricciardo's case would no longer hinge solely on Perez underperforming, but rather on the compelling argument that he is unequivocally the superior choice. Both Perez and Ricciardo are attempting to deflect questions about their future with Red Bull. However, it was anticipated that such inquiries would persist if Ricciardo continued to perform at this elevated level, and Perez's self-inflicted mistake now emphasizes an uncomfortable contrast between the two. To be fair, it wouldn't be accurate to label Ricciardo's performance as an overwhelming victory, as Perez also delivered an objectively strong qualifying performance relative to Verstappen, considering his recent struggles, and this should have boosted his confidence, demonstrating that his efforts in the Red Bull simulator had led him in the right direction. However, he immediately undermined this progress at the start of the race, and this not only compromised a weekend of hard work for his side of the garage, but also allowed Lewis Hamilton back into contention for second place in the championship, which is a crucial point for Red Bull. Ultimately, Red Bull has emphasized its desire for Perez to secure second place in the championship, a feat the team has never accomplished before. And if Perez falls short of this goal in 2023, given Verstappen's dominance, it would be a significant setback. Meanwhile, Ricciardo's performance on Sunday was amazing, and to be honest, from Red Bull's perspective, who would they be more impressed by? This weekend couldn't have provided a more glaring contrast in their respective cases to be Verstappen's future teammate, as it's now evident that Ricciardo can deliver what Red Bull needs from a teammate for Verstappen. Perez, on the other hand, has shown glimpses but hasn't consistently delivered, and the Mexican Grand Prix served as a stark reminder of this. Ricciardo's current performance suggests he's truly enjoying his time behind the wheel, a sentiment that's apparent both on and off the track, including his interactions during the press conference and his statements. When a driver is operating in such a positive state, it often leads to exceptional performance, and given Ricciardo's caliber and extraordinary skill set, he's more than capable of exceeding the expectations set by figures like Marko and Horner. Surprisingly or not, the idea of potentially replacing Perez with Ricciardo, once unfathomable just a short while ago, has now become a plausible scenario. But the future remains uncertain, and only time will reveal how this situation will ultimately unfold. With the upcoming race in Brazil, Perez has a chance to rectify the impressions left by recent events. The crucial question is whether he will seize this opportunity, and the answer remains to be seen. What do you think? Is Perez now inevitably at the exit doors in Red Bull? Let us know in the comments below, and we will see you next time.